Why do certain periods of life feel stripped of color? Why do some seasons seem to remove momentum, to remove certainty, to remove warmth, to remove reassurance? All these at once. This is not a message about comfort. This is a message about winter. And there is a difference. Most people experience winter incorrectly. They interpret it as punishment, as stagnation, as collapse, as abandonment, as evidence that life is no longer moving. But winter is not always a destruction of direction. No. Sometimes winter is the season that reveals whether direction truly exists. You see, there are seasons where applause becomes quiet, where movement slows, where certainty weakens, where distractions disappear, and suddenly a person is left alone with the architecture of their own life, not the performance, the structure beneath it. That confrontation can feel cold because winter removes insulation. Winter is honest, brutally so. Winter removes leaves. Winter exposes branches. Winter reveals what was hidden by bloom. And many people mistake exposure for death. But picture a tree in winter is not dead. No, it is enduring differently. You see, modern culture worships visibility, worships acceleration, worships expansion, worships constant bloom. So, naturally, winter feels threatening because winter does not always look productive. Sometimes winter looks like silence, withdrawal, rebuilding, uncertainty, reduced visibility, internal preservation. And in a world nowadays addicted to external proof, all those feelings of winter can feel unbearable. But winter asks a different question. Winter does not ask, can you shine? No. Winter asks, can you preserve fire when the room grows cold? It's a very different strand of question entirely. Because it is easy to feel aligned when life is moving, when people affirm you, when people recognize you, when opportunities appear knocking at your door, front, left, and center, when The future feels visible. It's easy. But winter, winter tests something way deeper than that. Winter comes to reveal what was performative, what was borrowed, what was unsustainable, what depended entirely on external reinforcement. And at first, this revelation can feel cruel. It can. But often, such revelation is clarifying. Because what survives winter usually carries truth differently. There are forms of rebuilding that happen quietly, that happen without applause, without witnesses, without visible reward. The person simply continues learning, refining, enduring, correcting course, preserving dignity, and keeping the internal structure alive. This happens even when externally very little appears to be blooming. That kind of reconstruction is rarely understood while it is happening. Winter also exposes identity because many people only know who they are when they are being admired, when they are productive, when they are desired, when they are externally validated. But remove the bloom, and the deeper question emerges. And that question is, who are you when visibility disappears? That question alone settles many, many people because winter removes performance opportunities. There is a difference between stillness and surrender. Winter may slow movement, but slowing is not the same as abandoning direction. Mm-mm. A compass still points north even during a storm. That distinction, that distinction matters immensely. What appears inactive in winter is often preparing silently, because roots deepen, structures strengthen, energy consolidates, and yet externally, very little announces itself. That is why impatient people often destroy necessary seasons. Impatient people interpret invisible growth as meaningless delay. In winter asks for endurance, not dramatic endurance, no, no, no. Quiet endurance. The kind of endurance that maintains standards, that preserves self respect. that protects direction, that refuses internal collapse, that continues without spectacle. That form of strength is rarely receiver of applause, but it builds something far more important. It builds substance. Many people attempt to escape winter prematurely. They force bloom. They perform certainty. They manufacture momentum. They seek distraction. Not because they are foolish, no, but cold is uncomfortable. The issue is that prematurely escaping winter often creates fragile futures because what was never strengthened internally cannot sustain expansion later. Cold teaches very differently than comfort. Cold reveals dependency, fragility, impatience, unconscious habits, emotional leakage, structural weakness. But cold can also teach resilience, stewardship, precision, gratitude, self-respect, and conscious living. It can teach it if a person remains awake within it. There is something deeply dignified about a person who continues refining themselves, who continues caring for their environment, who continues protecting their standards, who continues preserving their orientation, even when life temporarily loses color. And this happens not because conditions are easy, no. This happens because authorship remains intact. Some people think life only matters when visible success is occurring. But much of life's most important work happens beneath the surface, silently. Because picture a seed. A seed does not become weak because it is underground. The same way, a person does not become meaningless because the season became cold. Winter is not where life ends. No. Winter is where unnecessary noise dies. There is a difference. Because once distraction disappears, truth becomes easier to hear. This happens even if hearing it requires silence first. So, pardon. So, perhaps winter is not asking, can you succeed? Perhaps winter is asking, can you remain in relationship with yourself when external reinforcement weakens? That is a far deeper question. And perhaps this is the true purpose of winter, to reveal what remains alive when warmth becomes scarce. Not imagined identity, not performed certainty, no. The real fire. The one fire that does not depend entirely on the weather outside. And for those who require reflection beyond what is said here, there are forms of work not conducted in public. Access exists. Do not mistake winter for the end of your life. Winter is often the season where the unnecessary falls away. What remains begins learning how to endure truthfully. Because some forms of growth do not arrive through bloom. They arrive through surviving the cold without abandoning the fire within.